because everybody wants to preach the religion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think nothing's wrong with that. If I'm not coming to you, forcing on you, if I'm not holding a weapon on you and say, EJ, you
Yeah, if
have
I'm
to believe it.
just like Christianity, we all know Jehovah Witness people. We
Absolutely. They
all
come knocking on
know.
my door every
Yeah,
other day, right?
well, there you go. I'm sure. Yeah, so and I'm sure our listeners, you probably know one of two Christian groups that come knocking at your door as well.
Yes.
Maybe the Seventh-day Adventist folks.
Yes.
I don't know. And we all listen to these people. We chat. We talk to them, and then
Thank
we
you.
say bye.
Yes.
We don't necessarily have to go to your church the next day or believe them.
No. And
We
I've been
move
here
on.
22 years. I haven't seen one Islam person, one Muslim person, one person who practiced Islam who came to my door or any other door who knock on them and say, hey, here is about Islam. I
I
haven't
never
seen
have
it.
that either.
Even the biggest imam meaning like a priest or a preacher, even him will not tell you I'm going to heaven. It's actually a sin for us to say I'm going to heaven because only God knows that.
Wow.
We don't get to decide those things. So it's a bit confusing for me when people say, well, there's one way to get to that, or you believe this way, because it's not really true. We believe Islam is the way, just like Christian people believe
Mm-hmm.
Christianity is the way. We spread the message. If you take the message, good for you. If you don't, then bygone, like, go on your merry way. So there's so many misconceptions, and I think maybe is the sometimes I feel like maybe the Arabic language, because our Quran is in Arabic language. A lot of the word that we use is Arabic language, and I know I've heard people, if like for example, if you say Allahu Akbar, there you go, you said the word, is a trigger.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode. Today's conversation is centered around the recent attacks and brutal killings of our brothers and sisters from the Muslim community. First off, Islamophobia, racism, hate crime against the Muslim community is and has been a huge systemic problem around the world, and Canada is no exception. It needs to be addressed now and immediately. Racism, racial slurs, brutal attacks, and killings continue to rise in Canada. And when these horrific crimes happen, we sometimes like to think it's episodic, it's a one-off situation. It can't happen in Canada. We don't like to attribute it to systemic issues in Canada because, after all, Canada is supposedly a multicultural nation. Earlier this month, the Afsol family went out for their usual Sunday walk, in your neighborhood. But this time, they were run over by a truck in what police are calling a targeted attack motivated by anti-Muslim hate. 4 members of the Afsol family lost their lives on that fateful day. Mom, dad, grandma, sister, all gone just like that. And they were survived by their 9-year-old son. While we're still grappling with what happened to the Afsol family, this senseless crime, fast forward to just a few days ago, here in our community, 2 Muslim sisters, visibly Muslim because they're wearing their hijabs, were attacked in our community here in the city of St. Albert. One of them was just knocked out unconscious to the ground. And let's not forget about the attack in Quebec in 2017, where a man opened fire in a mosque and killed 6 people. 6 people dead and several others injured. These attacks in Canada are not episodic, as you can see from history and from this quick summary that I'm doing here for you today. Something needs to be done. Islamophobia is endemic in our communities and in our systems. In light of these horrific incidents against the Muslim community, I have long felt the burning need to talk about this issue, to highlight and bring awareness to this on my podcast. But I didn't want to talk about it by myself. I wanted to have a Muslim brother or sister come talk to me about it because I'm a Christian. Most people know that I'm a Christian woman. But I wanted the perspective to have my Muslim brother or sister to come chat and let's talk about how we can do this. So today, my guest and I are talking about how to tackle and address Islamophobia with concrete solutions, concrete government policies, and actionable practices that you and I can adopt to protect and support our Muslim friends, neighbors, colleagues, brothers, and sisters. So with me today is Fatia Tia Abdullahi. I'll let her introduce herself really soon here, but I want to say that Tia is a registered social worker in Alberta and currently works as an acute inpatient social worker. She's skilled in multiple areas, including psychotherapy, crisis intervention, case management, group therapy, and more. Tia is from the Ormo Canadian community, a young mother, an activist, and passionate about speaking truth to power, raising awareness on social justice and human rights issues. She recently granted an interview to Global News addressing rising racism and Islamophobia in our community. So I urge you to check out that interview that Tia has done. So our Muslim brothers and sisters urgently, desperately need your help and your support. They are in constant fear of living in our community. They can't go out in the grocery stores, to schools, to the mall, on a walk in your neighborhood. Think about the little things that you do and you take for granted. Our Muslim brothers and sisters cannot do that. So now I'll bring on my guest Tia to come talk to us about our topic today, which is addressing Islamophobia. Welcome, Tia. I have to
Hi,
ask. Hi. Thank you so much, first off, for giving me your
thank you for having me.
I do have to ask, I know this is a difficult question to ask, but how are you doing? How are you coping in these times?
You know, as you mentioned, and my voice is going to change because I'm kind of anxiety kind of just
I
really takes over
know, I
me.
understand.
Especially when you mentioned the London family, I get goosebumps. It's an immediate reaction. I still get goosebumps till now. Um, I think I think just like you mentioned, I think we are kind of dumbfounded. We I don't understand. I was just speaking for myself. Is I've been living in Edmonton for over 22 years, and this is my home. Um, I never like even the whole Black Lives Matters and the whole Black issues, and I never, honest to goodness, I never felt like I didn't belong, or I never felt like I have to constantly check,
Mm-hmm.
my surrounding. It was is a kind of foreign thing for me. Is something that happened in the state. It's something that we see on TV.
Yeah,
But it's
elsewhere,
not
but not
something.
here, right?
No, never. It is absurd. Actually, it's just it doesn't make any sense. So um, I think I'm here, but I think I'm jumpy, and I'm jumpy. I am very my anxiety level. I didn't even think I had anxiety. I didn't even think as a Black person there is such a thing as anxiety for me. I just to be honest with you, but I think because we're told to be strong, we're told to be resilient, we're told to be
Absolutely.
we're told
Fearless.
to be
And I know how we're
fearless,
brought up as Black people, yes.
right?
But
So it's just, but then I think is a chemical reaction. I get immediate reaction. I
yeah,
have an anxiety because you don't understand. I think when you don't understand something, it bothers you. It doesn't leave you. You just don't understand what's going on. And I think for me personally, I think um, I have my three kids with me, and I'm a single parent, and I just don't understand. I think I have to wait. Every decision I'm making, for example, simple thing, I just going to grocery shopping. I honest to God, I have to pause and say, is this really a good time to do this? Are there going to be so many people? Are
mm,
you going to be safe? Do you really need that? Do you need extra milk today? Can the kids be okay today? Um, Another thing I adapted now is when we're driving with my kids, I roll down. So I roll down my window because it's very hot, as you can see. I mean, we've been having heat wave for the last week or so.
absolutely. Yeah.
But every time I arrive in a traffic stop, I roll up my window. I put my window up, and I think it's this it became an immediate reaction from me because I don't honestly God know what's gonna happen. And because couple months ago there was an incident about road rage, about a Muslim, visibly Muslim family being attacked road rage. The guy cut him off, got out of the car, started stalking him. So because I say I have that, I'm like, okay, well I don't want this to happen. What if I'm passing someone now? Maybe Tia, maybe do we have to pass? Let's not pass this person. You are in constant fear. So I think is a new normal at this point until we just figure out what's going on. What's going on? What's going on?
Wow.
Right? Yeah, it is a new way of living. And you're right. We take a lot of things for granted. We take simple thing as going for a walk for granted. We take going to grocery shopping for granted. Even like summertime and um even like I mean
It's
you want
it's
to take you yeah.
yeah, it's really scary. And you know, as I was preparing for our conversation today, I, went and just did some reflection and just try to imagine if I was a Muslim person, who wore a hijab, and just what my day would be like, because there are so many things that I do now just casually that I feel like you can't do that. And so are our other Muslim brothers and sisters around the world. Like, you can just get up and just go, because there's just
Uh,
so much hate. Like, it's in the air, it's
yeah.
suffocated. It's scary.
Yeah, and I sometimes I also worry about my mom. My mom is um she's very stubborn. She likes to
Our
go for a walk.
parents,
I mean,
yeah.
she got a knee surgery a couple of years ago, so she watches her kids for us. But then when we pick up her kids, she likes to go for a walk, and that's kind of my concern. These people are coward. They don't care how old you are.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly they're attacking people who can't see them. This is you're not aware what's going to happen to you. They're is they're coward. Their whole
Yeah.
point is their whole perspective is to instill fear in you so your life change. So my concern is really for my mom, my sister, my cousins, people in my community who can't speak the language properly, who really don't understand what's going on. Um, um, that this is the reason why I want to do what I need to do. But then at the same time, like for example the rally that was happening today, it happened at Churchill. I don't feel comfortable, I don't feel safe. If it was at the ledge ground, it's a bit different because the train station is not really close. They can't
Mhm.
really run that far. The police might be near. The Churchill Square over the year has been crazy place to be to
Yeah.
begin with, and there is so much space that anybody can do something and run in the crowd and nobody knows.
It's
So
very
me,
scary. Yeah. And
mm,
it's definitely not safe actually to gather in those groups right now as a visible Muslim. I
I
totally
didn't.
agree.
I don't feel like. I feel like I'm going to be exposed, and I feel like um, I'm going to be exploited. It's nice to be present, but when the crowds goes away and I'm going to my car, I'm going to because I have to walk somewhere to get to my
Yes.
car.
And you
Imagine this. I
never
didn't even used
know,
to think about
right?
this.
Well, that's why I said that at the beginning, is that a lot of things that we take for granted. If you did go for a rally, you have to consider that you don't know who's seen you and who is stalking you all the way to your car, right? All the way to your home. I don't mean to throw fear out there on
No, but it's reality
anybody,
though.
but I just want people to really have a full picture of the
Yeah.
reality. Absolutely. So you mentioned that you've lived in Canada for 22 years.
Yes.
I'm just wondering now, in this time, have things gotten better or worse? Like, were things like this in the beginning when you first moved to Canada?
No. It's funny. I was actually talking to another friend. I said even like when 9/11 happened, um, I was in high school back then. I still remember. I don't remember anything. I never, I never even heard of it. And imagine you'll think as time evolves, we'll be evolving ourselves, right? We'll be more liberal or more, I don't know,
Yeah.
right? Our mind will change. We'll evolve and become better people. I don't understand. I don't get it, to be honest, because you will think at that time that was more warranted, even though we haven't done anything. Some other person did what they did to 9/11. You know what happened?
Hmm.
We didn't inflict that, but I will think there'll be some anger coming out of that. But even back
Yeah,
then, I haven't seen
absolutely.
anything. I have not seen it. I haven't. I personally have never been, oh, knocked the wood. I have never been attacked, whether it's for my color or whether I'm a woman. Whether I haven't not been attacked, and I'm not taking that for granted. I'm very thankful of that. But I think I was telling also my friend. I said this day I feel like I will be next. I don't know what it is. Um, it's just I'm not weak, and this is not what that is. I don't even think this is what it is. I
No,
think
absolutely
it's
not.
just if you see somebody coming to you, like if somebody is attacking you and you're right in front of them, one of two things would happen. You'll defend yourself. They will either it's gonna be one or the other. You're gonna assault them. They're gonna
There's
assault
only
you,
other, yeah, there's only two
right?
ways, two way out of it.
Yeah, but this is not the case. This is a premeditated
Yes.
attack without you being aware of it. So that's kind of, I think, is the fact that you are not in your zone or whatever you want to call it. You're not in a place where you see this happening. um I think
Yeah.
that's what the first coming from.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's very interesting that you said that even after 9/11, this outrage didn't exist, but now we're seeing this all of a sudden. Because I was thinking about that, and I was wondering, like, after 9/11, were these kind of situations happening? I don't remember it happening at this intensity. So I'm
Mm.
just wondering, what do you think are some of the reason why Islamophobia is on the rise today, especially here in Canada?
Oh my God. I think because I know some of the leader kind of connected with us and they reach out to us because I belong to this sister dialogue or sister circle. We're trying to provide some healing and some venting space for us. And they reach out and we were talking and we were asking, why is this happening? Why now? What's going
Yeah,
on?
why now? Exactly.
Me personally, what I think is, I think they're all connected because that's what I believe anyways. I think it's all connected. I think this is happening somewhere online. I think
Mhm.
and I think that's what I think it is because there hasn't been any, what, and this is very sad of me to say this, but I'm gonna say this anyways because sometimes you think if there is a attack, if there is a terrorism attack, if a Muslim person attack France or they attack the U.S., then if there is rise of Islamophobia after that, there is some justification, although not really. You know what I mean?
No,
But
not at
you
all.
can no exactly. But
No,
you
not
can
at
even
all.
say like somebody will even say, "Oh well, that makes sense. People are scared. They're retaliating." You can even say that, but there hasn't been any of that, EJ. There is literally nothing. And this attack that happening randomly is a spiral is happening anywhere and
Yeah,
everywhere,
it's spiraling.
right? So
It's yeah.
I think there is a somewhere online people are having this conversation. There is a very strategic I find, and
Mm.
I think this is what we were asking of them. I was thinking they need to maybe monitor those online conversation, even if you think it's very tiny, if you think it's nothing out of it, maybe we should really monitor those language that's happening. um, it can be I'm sorry, but I don't believe this is just a random. No, no, no. One or two is random. Now we're talking
It's
about
not,
tens,
yeah, no,
right?
it's not random.
So,
It's
um,
targeted, right? No.
and they're targeting women, except the one today in Saskatchewan or that family. But I think I don't even know, man. I think EJ, I feel like this is why my brain hurts, and I think all of us were kind of confused because
Yes.
we're trying to find out like why now, like what's happening now, right? So that's what I think it is. I think it's just and sometimes this pandemic too, maybe might be just an excuse, but it's nice to have an explanation somehow. I do think sometimes maybe this pandemic is also aggravating people, and I think a lot of people have lost their jobs. And I think mental health, although I'm not really, again, this is very sad because you're trying to find justifications to any
Yeah,
mean,
we're trying to find
right?
justification, but yeah, no, I
Yeah.
agree with you. I've heard people say that as well, that they feel like the rise in hate crimes and racism and all of that is could be attributed to the pandemic. Now, I don't know how true that is. And I agree with you. I still don't think that that's a justification for violence, period.
Yeah,
So let's discuss some of the misconceptions about Islam and
sure.
the Muslim community, because I do feel that there is possibly some criticism. I don't want to say attack or violence, or maybe that is the right word, but I would choose my word carefully to say that maybe why some people criticize Islam or criticize the Muslim community is because of that misconception of certain teachings and myths about Islam or Muslim community. So, in your experience, can you share some of the misunderstandings or misconceptions that you've heard that we can address today to help people understand that these are just myths and they are not
Okay.
realities?
Um, for one, I think um, I believe we fear what we don't know, you know.
Yes.
But then at the same time, I am putting the same expectation I'm going to put on myself. At the same time, EJ, there is a lot of knowledge on the internet, or you can, if you want to learn something, man, on this time, especially nowadays, you can find that knowledge. But let's even say, let's even grant them ignorance. Let's just say they're ignorant, they do not know the information, so let's provide them with some information. For me, the big one is the fear is from the unknown, right? Um, for folks who study theology, you know Christianity, Judaism, Islam, we all come is all the monotheism, faith,
Mhm.
right? We all believe in one God.
Mhm.
So the message is the same. Is however you got to the message, whether it came through, we believe it came through Jesus, it came from our prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. However you got to the message is still the same thing. Everybody's preaching the same thing. There is some discrepancy here and there, and in
Absolutely.
my faith, in Islam, we are prohibited. Is actually is a sin for us to disrespect the Torah or the Bible. We're not allowed to, because those are still God's word. We believe those things. Again, there is this discrepancy. Of course, that's why we have different faith. But we do not disrespect that, because that's how we believe. And I think when it comes to Islam, there is a misconception between faith and culture. People get confused with those things, and we have to separate that, right? Culture is whatever we adopt. If you grew up in Ethiopia, in Nigeria, if you grew up in the Middle East, your culture is different than mine, right? However, sometimes people interlock that, they make it one.
Yes,
Islam is very
absolutely.
simple. Islam is simple. I kid you not, Islam just means peace, right? However, though, we have to differentiate between Islam and Muslim people, right? Islam is the religion. Religion is perfect. Religion is the way it's made. However, us, we're not perfect.
Mhm.
So if you want to critique something, critique the Muslims people, how they're practicing, right? But not the faith, because the faith hasn't done nothing. Um, and I think we see a lot of it. We see a lot of violence that come from folks who identify as Muslim, right? You cannot be Muslim if you're killing somebody. Let's just clear that up. It literally says if you kill one person, as if you kill a whole humanity. That's how in our belief, that's not a Quran. So whoever is practicing Islam or pretending to practice Islam and doing harm in the name of Islam, that person is no longer Muslim. He's not practicing. He's going in his own agenda, and that's that. So if we can provide some sort of justification for the crazy guy who just ran over that family, we can. And now there is a talk, there is a mental health. I knew that's going to come,
Yeah.
right? So when that person is not Muslim, we always give them justification. We always say, hate the act, but not the illness. I think there
Mhm.
is something I saw that. But yet,
Mhm.
when a
Yeah.
Muslim person or somebody who identify as Muslim does the same thing, now we're critiquing the entire Muslim
And we
community
label it
population.
terrorist
We label
attack,
it terrorism
right?
attack, and
Yeah.
us, the rest of us, have to apologize on behalf of some random psycho who's killing people, right? So my religion is just like any other religion. We believe in peace. We believe in no harm. Um, we believe being good to your neighbor, um, and go on about your life. We believe in giving charity, praying, fasting, going to a pilgrimage. Those are the things we believe in. We don't believe anything else that you see on the media. That's what that is, and that's the propaganda. And I think the purpose is to instill fear in every single person and to create divide between us. And this is what I hate. Really, we became us and them. Like,
Yeah, it
what
became
is?
an, yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
I'm so
Yeah.
confused about that. But there is, other than that, we're just like anybody else. I mean, even take for me, for example, I struggle with the hijab. I'm sorry, but is uphill, is always like up and down for me because I'm a human being. Like, I struggle with that. That is part of my religion that sometimes I don't agree with, but it's not. I think it's where you go to learn about religion, because a lot of us growing up, because I grew up in Canada and I came when I was younger, but we're growing up in two different cultures, right? So if you sometimes the folks that you go to learn religion from, I'm sad to say, but you don't get the teaching that you want. They're very judgmental for one.
Absolutely. This happens in the Christian faith as well all the time, and for my podcast listeners who've listened to me for a little bit, I talk about some of the things within Christianity or biblical teachings that I don't agree with, or because people have misquoted them. People have skewed your
Absolutely.
understanding and
Thank you for saying that.
misinterpreted them. So,
Yes.
for
Yes.
example, the big one that most Christians know about that is always a bone of contention and there's always a
Yes.
rub about it is submission. There's a part of the Bible that says a woman should submit everything to a man,
Same
and
here.
well,
We
there
have
you go.
exactly
See,
the same thing.
and I tell people that that
Absolutely.
is submitting to a man who has first submitted under the
To
authority
God.
of God. You are not
Yes.
submitting to an abusive man. You are not submitting to a violent person, and you're
Yes.
not submitting definitely to any man. Is only
Yes.
the man that you're married to who is
Yes.
first and foremost under the authority of love. If that man
Yes.
does not understand love, you have no business submitting nothing to this kind of a person. So
Absolutely.
that is a very perfect example where people make misunderstanding. So I feel like with Islam or any other religion out there,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. There's always gonna be things that we struggle with because someone else has taught us differently, right? There are
Yes.
people out there who teach, oh no, you gotta submit, like, you know what, just pray for the man. If he's violent, just keep praying for him. One
That's
day
not.
God will take
Oh
care
my
of it.
God! I have a.
You know,
We need another
we
podcast
need
for
another
that because
podcast for
I
that.
have
but
stories about
but
that.
but people preach that. If you There
Yes,
are some
I know.
religious teachers within the Christian faith that preach that.
Yes,
Now, is that right or is that wrong? That's a different conversation altogether.
yes,
But that is
absolutely.
a misunderstanding and a
Yeah,
misinterpretation of the Bible. And I feel
yeah,
like that's the same thing that you're trying to say here. And so people who are, just taking Islam out of proportion, taking it just completely away from
yeah,
what the Quran is saying, is truly unfair to expect the rest of the Muslim community to be apologizing for that one person's
yeah,
act. When a pastor does something wrong, like a pastor goes out there and kills his wife, which happened quite recently, I think it was in the States.
yeah.
I don't apologize for that pastor as a
No,
Christian. And so there's other
and you
Christian people
shouldn't. You
out
should
there.
not. This is
It's
between him and his Lord. I
he
mean,
did that.
yeah,
So
yeah,
does that mean that all the Christians out there are going to do these horrible things to their spouses and to loved ones? Absolutely not.
yeah.
But there are bad people in the Christian faith.
Absolutely.
There are bad
Another
people
thing.
in other faiths, period.
Another misconception in Islam is that women are oppressed. And because
Uh-huh.
we're oppressed, we are
Yeah,
forced to wear the hijab.
that's right.
We are so
I've
oppressed
heard
that,
that one. I've heard that one.
but it's interesting because, is it's interesting how that works because if I'm choosing not to comply to the standard beauty, how am if I'm choosing to cover myself
Yes.
because I'm submitting myself to my Lord, and I don't I'm so confused about that because I'm making that choice to say, well, no, I am not going to abide how the society work, the standard of beauty, what I'm supposed to look like. I'm deciding I'm gonna go cover myself and be modest, whatever that's gonna be for me. I think there is nothing more brave and more um more badass than this for me, because you literally, especially nowadays, that fashion and body image and everything
Yeah.
is thrown in our faces. You're saying, no, I reject that, and I'm rather, cover myself. How is that
And then
oppressing? There is
suddenly
no,
you're oppressed. Yeah. Yeah.
there is no man that tells us. And my it's interesting. My ex-husband, actually, he's also a Muslim man. He never actually wanted me to wear the hijab. So that doesn't make sense to me. And a lot of us, there isn't a husband who's going to tell you cover yourself, because at the end of the day, when I die, I'm going to my grave. God is going to question me alone. It's going to be just me. My husband's not going to be in the grave with me. My kids will not
Nope.
be there with me. It's going to be me
You
and
yourself and
and
yourself
my
alone.
deeds. Yeah, you
Yeah.
exactly. So when people say, when Muslim women are oppressed, I'm like, how are we oppressed? Or they say sometimes Muslim women are not allowed to go to school, they're not allowed to earn money. Um, or the big one, just like you said, is the submission to your husband. But then again, you really have to don't take this out of context and focus on that piece of it, because if
I
that's the
think
case, then
they
of course,
focus
baby.
on the political piece, and there is always a political piece in any culture or in any, religion. There's just always a political piece. So, for example, we all know that there are parts of, the world where women are not allowed to drive. And so
That are
this
part of it. That's not Islam, that's the culture, that's Saudi Arabia,
that is
right?
where I'm going. So that's
Yes.
where I'm going. But people forget. That's why I prefaced that by saying there is always a part of religion that has the political and the cultural piece of it that we forget. And that is really not the teaching in the word of God, right? It's what men and women
Yes.
have decided to integrate, implant into your culture, and guise it under religion, but it's not,
That's
or
a
guise it.
patriarchal system.
That's the patriarchy
Um,
system. Yeah.
yes. And I think, it's interesting. People focus on driving. Nobody cares about no driving, because I think we're bigger than that. We're, first, we live in a first world, right? We focus on the driving. There is a bigger issue than driving for me. And then when a lot of people focus, oh, she's not allowed to drive. But I'm like, okay, but though, that's a small part of it.
Yeah.
But then it's really interesting. I was going to mention about the whole submission to your husband. Islam, in our religion, we're not allowed to take our husband's last name. So if I'm submitting to this man, if I am
Oh.
very oppressed, shouldn't I have to have his name? I mean, I should have just took his last
I
name
think this
then.
whole last name thing, I have to go back and read my history really well, but I have the understanding, I read somewhere that
Yeah.
this was something that came from the white man's, European
Oh, I'm
type
not even. I'm not
culture
even surprised.
to I'm speaking now for my own country, like
Yeah.
those of us from West Africa, to
Yeah.
us, because there were times where, that just wasn't the case. If you got
Yes.
married, you kept whatever name that you came to the marriage with. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, somebody brought this tradition in that says that, if you get married as a woman, you need to change your to your
It
husband's
might
name,
be for
but not the
security
other
back
way.
then. Yeah, yeah. It might be for security. It might be for back then. We never know. But in our faith though, we are not to take our last name, our husband's last name, because he's not your father. It doesn't work that way. You keep your own name. So for
Mm.
someone who's been oppressed, how dare I not take my husband's last name then? Because he should be really owning me at this point.
Yeah, I mean,
Sure, I'm
right? Like,
supposed to
I mean,
submit.
we're
Yeah.
we're just a
So
commodity, so why, how dare me not take his last name
so
since
I
I'm
I think
oppressed?
I think people, the big part for me is there is misconception between culture and religion, and I think depending what culture you see or and I don't think culture is really bad. I think people like to organize things. It just makes sense to them to have some sort of similarity and kind of pass down generation upon generation without even questioning it. So it doesn't necessarily mean culture is a bad thing. Also, it just means that maybe sometime we shouldn't focus too much on that alone, and
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
um and there is if you if even if you go to YouTube, if you want to learn about Islam, there is a beautiful people who explain it in a very common way, in a very inviting way that you can learn. And this is why I was able to take back my hijab, because mind you, I took the hijab while this is started. So
Wow.
um and the reason for me, I wanted to take a stand. I wanted to take a stand and say, it really bothered me a lot when people see me and says, "Oh, I didn't know you, Tia. Oh, I didn't know you were Muslim." It bothered me a little bit because
Mm.
that's my identity. That's a big part of me. That's one reason. And the other thing, I wanted to stand in solidarity with my Muslim sisters because I say, you know what, this is our faith. There is no shame in it.
No, it is
Um,
not.
and we shall be able to
Absolutely.
practice our faith. I don't think I don't know what is the fear about wearing a scarf because it's just a piece of scarf, but I think the reality is the ideology, is the fact that we are submit like there is a submission to our Lord, and that bothers people because the whole purpose of Islam is submission to your Lord. Um, and not a lot of people really believe in God because a lot of people, especially here in Western countries, is they just go as the flow. They just is like a bird, right? There
Yeah.
is and which is fine. That's your prerogative. It is what that is.
Yeah.
But for the
But
rest
don't
of
make the
us,
rest of us have to abide by your standard. Like
absolutely.
that's not
I'm
fair.
not coming. I'm not coming here to change your mind, and I'm not here for that. I don't want to change your mind, but I don't want to be punished also for believing in one God, and believing in my faith, and for practicing my faith how I see it. I'm not bothering anybody. I'm not going out there and shouting Islam is this, Islam is that. You should be. You're a bad person. You're going to hell otherwise. I am not preaching those things. Matter of fact, Islam is peace. If you
There's a
really,
guy that does that on Jasper Avenue. But
there you
anyway,
go.
girl, I'm just gonna.
You know what I mean, though.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I know
So we're
what you
not doing
mean.
that. But I think whatever is happening right now, I'm going to be honest with you, I really think is because of the pandemic. I think a lot of people have a time in their hand. They just
Hmm.
and I feel that a lot of people have a lot of anger. A lot of people believe that immigrant, because they still see us as newcomers, they still see us as foreigners. Mind you, we've
They
been
see you
here.
as you did not adopt the
Yes,
Canadian way. You did not assimilate,
absolutely.
right?
Whatever that
Yeah,
means.
whatever that means. Exactly.
um,
That's why I'm using air quotes. So
yes,
I also still talking about, misunderstanding, misconceptions, and myths. I want to talk about some parts that of what people say, and you can correct me because I have no knowledge of the Quran. They say that some of the teachings of the Quran or some of the teachings in Islam perpetuates this idea that Islam is trying to take over the rest of the world or trying to be the one all be all religion. So there are people who say things like the Quran teaches superiority over other religion. For example, monopoly to God, only one access to God. Of course, you've told me a little bit earlier, because I was paying attention and taking notes, that the Quran teaches and Islam teaches that you protect other religion. And you talked about Judaism, Christianity, the Torah, that you respect. Those were your words, you
absolutely,
respect and you take care of those other religion because we are all supposed to live together in unison, right? We're
absolutely.
not here to prove that any other religion is more superior than the other. That's what the true Islam teaches. So I want you to address, people with this kinds of thought process that they use words like, oh, there's the jihad, oh, there's Sharia law, there's dawah, if I'm
Yes.
pronouncing it right, and fitra, and whatever else out there that teaches this monopoly on access to God. Can we talk about that as well?
I don't know where to begin, but let's begin with jihad. Jihad
Sure.
is jihad. To be honest, is misunderstood. Let's just say that, okay? Um, no, so the jihad part, jihad literally what it means is the struggle within. Is the struggle, is you overcoming that struggle. It just means it's fighting the devil inside you because we all have it. And I'm sorry, I don't want someone to say, "Well, see, Muslim, she mentioned devil too."
No,
Well,
but we
there
all
is,
but
we
we
all
all struggle with a dark side within us. I don't see anything wrong with it.
absolutely. And I think, and I personally struggle with that because again, I grew up in two different cultures. It's very hard to be. I mean, you cannot comply to neither of them. It's like you're lost, right? So jihad is literally what that means. It's just a struggle. Is the battle that you have within yourself, um, to find your truth or
So
whatever
there's no
that
such
means.
thing as the jihad war where Muslim people, they gather around and they go on
What
some kind
are
of
they?
crusade.
Egypt, what are I want to see, I want to meet with them, you know. But are they people, I'm going to be
Yeah.
honest though, so are there people in Islam who believe in jihad, and actual jihad in itself, believing that jihad mean killing anybody and everybody who was not Muslim? Absolutely. You know, there is a terrorist people
Yeah, there are
organization, they
terrorist
do
people who
exist.
believe that. Yeah.
But how about this though? Those are the people who actually kill Muslim the most though, right? So they're not coming to you just yet,
We
because in
have that
order
in
for them,
Nigeria. You're
so
familiar with my country. There is
absolutely,
a huge portion, possibly more than 50%, that are Muslim,
yeah,
and they attack other Muslim communities and
yes.
kill other Muslim people. So,
I remember the recent
yes.
one, those little girls who got those, the whole school got kidnapped, right?
Yeah.
I cannot defend that because I am against those. Our leader would stand and say, we are not okay with that. We condemn all that. That is not okay to happen, right? We're all against it. So, but are we saying that every single Muslim, how many billions of us actually believe that? Absolutely not. Like I said, killing one person means killing entire humanity. So there is a terrorist organization, a lot of them, and they do try to recruit the new ones, the young, the young minds who are still a bit naive, who haven't really have their own, you know, thought yet. They do recruit those. Absolutely, I can't deny that. The thing about dawah, that would just mean spreading the word of God. That's what, the
Okay.
same guy, that's the same person who's just like the same guy who stand on Jasper Avenue with the big sign, Jesus is the way,
That
right?
guy. Yeah, I
That
know
is
what you
that
mean.
is dawah. That's right. That is dawah. Dawah means spreading the message of God. Whatever is wrong with that? I thought that isn't like a freedom of speech. I'm confused about that. So how is that a negative thing, right? Let's even say that's actively happening because everybody wants to praise the religion, right?
Hmm.
So I don't think nothing's wrong with that. If I'm not coming to you, forcing on you, if I'm not holding a weapon on you and say, Ejin, you
Yeah, if
have
I'm
to
just
believe it,
just like Christianity, we all know Jehovah Witness people. We
absolutely. They
all
come knocking on
know.
my door every
Yeah,
other day, right?
well, there you go. I'm sure. Yeah, so and I'm sure our listeners, you probably know one of, two, Christian groups that come knocking at your door as well.
Yes,
Maybe the Seventh-day Adventist folks.
yes.
I don't know. And we all listen to these people. We chat, we talk to them, and then
Thank
we
you.
say bye.
Yes.
We don't necessarily have to go to your church the next day or believe them.
No. And
We
I've been
move
here
on.
22 years. I haven't seen one Islam person, one Muslim person, one person who practiced Islam who came to my door or any other door who knock on them and say, hey, here is about Islam. I
I
haven't
never
seen
have
it.
that either.
So
Hmm.
what is going on? What are you talking about then? But if people on YouTube, there is a lot of imams, and I'm so thankful that there's a lot of leaders out there. They put their message on YouTube. It's beautiful message. You should
Yeah.
really, I really urge people to listen to it. There is nothing harm in that. There is no like we're better, you bad.
Oh
We're going to
no.
heaven. We're going to hell. Even how about this? Even the biggest imam, meaning like a priest or a preacher, even him will not tell you I'm going to heaven. I It's actually a sin for us to say I'm going to heaven because only God knows that.
Wow.
We don't get to decide those things. So it's a bit confusing for me when people say, well, there's one way to get to that, or you believe this way, because it's not really true. We believe Islam is the way, just like Christian people believe
Hmm.
Christianity is the way. We spread the message. If you take the message, good for you. If you don't, then bygone, like, go on your merry way. So there's so many misconceptions, and I think maybe is sometimes I feel like might be the Arabic language because our Quran is in Arabic language. A lot of the word that we use is Arabic language, and I know I've heard people, if like for example, if you say Allahu Akbar, there you go, you said the word, is a trigger, right? I'm like,
Seriously?
oh my
Oh
goodness, how
my.
dare you, right? But do you know them? It's just a language, though, just like any other language, just like English language. It's just a language.
It's just a language. We need to get this word, people, that Tia is saying right here. It's just a language. If this was English, if this was Jewish, if this was Hebrew, German, Russian, whatever language, French,
Yeah.
would you have a problem with somebody saying Allah Akbar or Inshallah or whatever else? Would you have a problem with that?
Is
Probably not. So
yes,
why is
probably
there a
not.
problem when somebody else speaks your own language and all of a sudden there's a tension in the room?
I think
I
anytime
think our mind over time,
yeah,
I think it's just, it could, maybe mainstream media might also have a place
big
in
part,
this, a
absolutely.
big part in like
Yeah,
brainwashing the way people perceive these things.
I agree. I really agree. I think I'm gonna tell you as a Muslim person, there is nothing to fear us. There is nothing to fear Muslim folks. If you want, I actually recommend having conversation that has without anger. Just really listen to us. Listen to go get to know one Muslim family. Get to know a Muslim person. Talk to your friend that you work with. Talk to anyone. Ask them questions. And a lot of us, just like you're questioning me right now, talking to me, we'll give you
Mhm.
the information. We'll talk to you. Um, there is I wouldn't be in it. I'm not ignorant. I'm a grown person. I hope I'm intelligent to know when something is
Yes,
bad
you
for me. I
are,
wouldn't
girl.
be yeah, I wouldn't be running to a religion that preach hate. It doesn't preach hate. But I think if you take things out of context, if you just
Yes.
focus on that, oh jihad. Well, I mean, and the other thing, the Quran was written like 500, like what was it? What is it?
It's
Six
like 650 AD or something
right?
like that.
AD
It's
exactly.
like
So the
long
message
time
hasn't
ago.
changed, but
Yeah.
back then, though, let's just be honest. Back then, people used to go to war, physically fight religion. That's how the whole religion came about, right? That's people used to go
Mm-hmm.
to war. But how are you gonna apply that and say, well, they were fighting for Islam. This was happening right now. I can promise you that's different than this one because this terrorist gangs or organization, they're killing innocent people. That's not the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. No,
It's
that's
not like, do
that's
you know what I mean?
extremism,
Exactly.
and that's what we need to just wrap our head around it, that it's not the religion, it's not the word of God, the Quran in your case. It's just specific people who are truly not part of the Muslim community. They are the radical people, they're the extremists. Just like in any other
Absolutely. Yeah.
religion,
Yeah.
there are extremist people in there. And those are the
Yeah.
people that make that religion look bad. It's not the whole people, right? So it's just I think that's how people need to start to try to think about it, is that whenever you have just think about like a big a bag of apples, and there's one bad apple in there. You just have to take that one
That one
bad
out.
apple
Absolutely.
out. You're not
Yeah.
going to throw the whole bag of really good apples away because of one
No.
bad apple.
Yeah. And you just, I think you get out of your bubble.
Yeah.
Get out, talk to people, get to know them, ask them questions. They will most likely a Muslim person will literally invite you to their home. They will say, "Come," and they'll feed you. They'll cook for you. They'll talk to you. That's how you get to know the community. That's how you don't learn it from a small clips, or you don't learn it from Donald Trump's mouth. Or you don't learn it
Nope.
from the social media. It's a trigger for me too. Every time I see Donald Trump, I'm like, ooh, we're moving on. But
Yeah.
I think is that you're not going to learn from the mainstream media. You're not
No.
going to. I'm sorry, you're not. If you want to get to know, actually get to know, go to the community and come talk to us. I'll cook for you. I'll give you samosas. I will. You can get to know my kids, and I will tell you about Islam. You can actually see with your two eyes exactly what that is. It's not what it seemed to be because all how many billion of us will not be practicing something that preach hate. It's just not.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tia. That was going to be the next question I was going to ask, is how can we educate non-Muslims to give Muslims a chance to have that conversation? And you started to talk about already. You said talk to a friend, talk to a Muslim friend, talk to a Muslim colleague, go out there and watch some meaningful teachings by people. And that's what I do. Like there are some really good podcasts out there, Muslim podcasters out there who teach about Islam, history of Islam, the whole Muslim community, as well as the Islam faith, in a way
Yeah.
that would really, it's not too complicated.
No,
you
it's
know,
not.
is the word I'm searching for. Like, it's
Yeah,
easy for people that are non-Muslim to understand. So seek out those sources, whether that
yeah,
be a podcast or a YouTube or a book, maybe.
yes.
But I would start by saying, talk to your Muslim friend if you have a Muslim friend, or approach, you know, someone within the Muslim community. Or if they approach you, give them a listening ear.
The other thing is in Edmonton we have one of the oldest mosque in Canada. Have the like the Al
Oh,
Rashid Mosque. The Al Rashid Mosque just the other year or so they celebrated their 100 years in Edmonton. Okay,
wow.
in Alberta in itself. So when sometimes when people talk about Islam being or especially here in Edmonton or in Alberta or in Canada, something new, but it's not new though. I mean, we have a whole mosque that tells you it's been around for 100
No,
years.
Islam is not a new religion, and if I'm not mistaken, it's probably older than Christianity. But I don't know.
But
You
I
know,
think even when our leaders, because I know the leader of UCP government, the new, and this is the thing that is this hate is not nothing new. Is systemically rooted in there. Is nothing new.
yes,
Is something. This is something that they did because the recent school curriculum that just happened. There is a recent curriculum that
yeah,
came out.
I heard about that. Yeah, and I looked into it a little bit. Yeah,
They make it sound they made it that like Catholic or Christianity is the religion, and the other one because is a new or um so it's almost like making it's justifying that if people are having hard time with those other religion is because it's an upcoming. It cannot be. You can't have that kind of language when you're somebody in power. You just can't, because as somebody in power, I'm really holding them accountable. As somebody in power, your job is to create unity. There shouldn't be
absolutely.
any division. You
Of
cannot.
fear, yeah,
Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? Muslim people have voted for that person because he didn't just get there by only non-Muslim folks. There are Muslim people who got him there. So I think you really have to take accountability for that. And I think it's up to them to create that unity. It's up to them to say from the. I don't see them. Have you seen them on the news? I don't see them. I don't see them saying we condemn. We don't condone this. This is not okay. I don't see them saying that often.
mhm,
I see the opposition leaders, however, speaking up. I see them reaching out to the Muslim community. I see them critiquing this government. But I think when you have that kind of responsibility, if you have that kind of power, you ought to do something about it. You really have to say
yeah.
something, and you have to come up with policies that really hold these people accountable for what they're doing, and we need to know about them. There is no transparency there. I don't know what's going on, and this is what the frustration, the anxiety, and the fear comes from. I don't know what's going on, and I think if our leader were transparent, if they were honest, if they were reaching out to us, if they're saying, well, this happened, but we're going to do this about it. We're going to create this policy. You guys going to be feel safe. I know it's not going to be
Yeah, because what
perfect.
has happened since 2017, when that guy, you know, that mass shooting in the mosque
Correct, yeah.
in Quebec. So what has happened? Like, what policy changes has been effected? I have no idea. And
And I
here
know
we are, how many years later?
and I know that the incident in London, I know all the leader went there. The whole.
Yeah,
I don't know if you
the
watched that.
vigil.
Yeah, the visual is beautiful, but I'm like, again, mouth are moving. What are the actions? You know what I mean? Everybody's going there to make themselves feel better. And oh, Justin Trudeau went there, or this other leader went there. Okay, fantastic, gotcha. I got it. You went there, great. But we're being exploited. We are being exploited. This is what's going to happen next. I don't see them
Yeah.
talking anymore, and that's the fear. They talk about it for 1 week, EJ, and then it drops, and then another attack, and then they're going to talk about it again. And then
And then yeah, it's just a cycle.
we became a trend. I don't want to be a hot trend anymore. I'm sorry, but go. Although I don't want somebody else to be attacked, but can we focus on something else? Maybe climate change for one. I mean, anything really at this point, right? But it's exhausting that we're putting these people in power, and my vote is not paying off. Do you know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
not,
No, I understand.
and you know, and safety and security is not a privilege. I'm sorry, people say that is a right that applies to all of us. It's not just, it doesn't
Absolutely.
apply to one group of people. It doesn't apply, no, it applies across the board to all of us. We should all feel safe and secure. We should all feel safety.
Yeah.
How can you, I mean, going for a walk, how can that be the most dangerous thing you're gonna do today
In 2021,
in
I don't know,
2021?
Tia. Yeah.
I am
We definitely need concrete policy solutions. I think that you've really mentioned a lot of good points for institutional change, for change that government can implement today. And you said, first off, in the beginning, you said we need to start monitoring these online rooms, these rooms where they chat and have these kinds of violent conversations that materialize and manifest in public, and somebody, or a bunch of people die. Governments need to pay attention to that, and government needs to create unity in their public presentation, in their messaging, in their statements, and of course concrete policies that hold
yeah.
people accountable. And I think you said that quite eloquently. I don't think that there's anything else to add to that, because we can't be here 1 week later, 1 month later, 1 year later again. What I want to ask now is what you feel, or some of the things that we should do at the individual level. What should non-Muslim people be doing at the community level to support the Muslim community and to keep this conversation going?
Okay. You know, there's a lot of the conversation me and the ladies that been having basically every single distance that just happened. Um, one thing is that non-Muslim folks can really do is spread the message, right?
Okay.
Talk about it. Don't make this just us issue, because clearly we're not attacking ourselves. Somebody else is attacking me who is not Muslim, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing. One thing you can do is spread the message. And if you know, and I'm not saying everybody is how they feel or how that's how they are, but for example, if some folks, you know, they're having family dinner, there's one uncle that's always, you know, spitting some hate messages. Maybe it's time to tell him today is not the day. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
educate them. Or if you don't want to educate them, you can say, you know what, I'm not okay with that. I'm not comfortable with that, because it's a message is spread like
Wildfire.
wildfire, right?
Yes.
Literally, we say it at the same time. So that's one thing you can do. Spread that message. Talk to the people that you know and say, start the conversation rolling. You guys can have your own podcast if you want. You guys can have your own meeting, whatever you need to do, because if you want to be part of the solution, this is it. Silence is violence. It's not good enough for us anymore. Is not helping me. It's not helping my family. It's not helping my community. Your silence is literally deadly for me. That's one thing you can do from individual level. From community level, go ask for change in policies and ask for legislation change to your MLAs and MPs, the people that you're hiring, people that you're voting for. Is our tax money that's paying these folks, right? So go
Yes.
talk to them, raise your voice. You have a voice, you voted. That in itself is a power. You have your voice. Please speak up. Go talk to them and ask accountability. Ask for, what are we doing about this? Because if something happens to you tomorrow, I can promise you I'll be there with you. You don't have to be Muslim for me to stand up with you. I will stand up with you. I'm against any kind of injustice. So that's another thing you can do from a community level and from a government level if you want. Go demand change. Go demand change, because my child, my mom, my sister, myself, we're in fear. For one, put yourself in my shoes, put yourself in that family's shoes, put yourself in that kid, the 9-year-old who survived, the sole
Yes.
survivor. Put yourself, is that something that you want for your family? If the answer is no, then you can do something about that today. You actually can do that, right? You start the conversation again. That's from a government level, from a community level. Whatever you need to do that you haven't done before is better than nothing, right? Because I'm sorry, but I'm not okay with your silence, and I'm not okay for you being. You're. Some people might say I'm uncomfortable. I don't care anymore. I'm just not here for that because we're literally dying here.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
don't. It's not that I don't want to be heartless because again, I'm an empath. I care about how that somebody else feel. I'm not trying to be this harsh person, but I honest to goodness, I'm not here for your comfort. I'm not. I'm trying to keep my family, my community alive as much as I can. So if you're gonna ask me tomorrow to stand with you when something happens to you, then I need you to show up for me today. And
That's
if you want, if that makes you uncomfortable,
that's
then today
powerful.
is not the
And
day. Yeah, that's
yeah.
not today. It's not the day you're gonna get apology from me because nobody's apologizing to me. Nobody's
No,
saying to me,
absolutely
how
not.
you know. And the funny thing is, people is interesting. People that are reaching out to us is people of color. It's colored folks. It's racialized folks that are
Yeah,
reaching out to us,
it's
right? Which is why are you quiet? Like, what's making you quiet? Why are folks quiet, right? Um,
mhm.
but your silence is not appeasing to me anymore. I'm sorry, and
Yeah.
um, yeah,
I like the word that you said there, the silence is violence. It's really true. I really believe that it's not the Muslim community, it's not the Muslim community's job or role to go out there campaigning against racism, against Islamophobia, and raising all this awareness. That's not the job of your community. Same way as it's not the job of Black people to go out there to educate people about racism. Go to the internet. There's something called Google. Google
yes,
it. There are books, there are courses, there's all kinds of information out there that you can go and learn about the history
absolutely.
of any specific community in order to know how best to support and to tackle what's at hand. It's not our job to tell people that, hey, we're being killed by the seconds, come do something about it. That,
No, and
that
I
that's
no.
not
If you don't want the same thing happening to you, then you shouldn't be okay happening to anybody. And that's how I practice my. I just
period.
that's how I practice everything I practice. It's just my faith, my career, who I am as a person. And I think a lot of folks too. I think sometimes they're getting burned out from
Yeah.
hearing all this. But imagine though, if you're getting burned out from just hearing about it,
Then
how about the
imagine the
rest of
people,
us?
yeah,
Imagine people
imagine
who
the
actually
people
live,
who are living in it. No, you're right.
you
Like
know,
people are
is
probably getting overwhelmed and therefore, desensitized and somewhat,
but you can do
numb,
something,
numb
EJ.
to
I
the
think
situation.
yeah, people can do something, and you can do
Absolutely.
something, man.
You can.
I have seen movement. I have seen you saw the Me Too movement.
I
Come
saw
on
it, of
now,
course.
you
Black Lives
you
Matter
if
movement. We keep seeing it. We know how
yes,
that. So I know what you're talking about, and you've told us what we can do. So I hope that our listeners today and those who watch this video as well will join the movement to end hate against our Muslim brother and sister and the whole community as well. So I also want you to touch on how parents can support your kids because this is all over social media. When they go to school, sadly, I'm sure that some of our kids are experiencing racial slurs and attacks as well. So as a mom, because you said that you're a single mother of three, how are you talking to this whole situation with your kids? And how do you any advice for other Muslim moms and dads on how they can help your kids cope with this information?
you know, we have two issues in my community. One, my kids are brown. They're black kids. They're black boys, and I have two boys and a girl. Okay, when the whole Black Lives movement happened, I had to sit down my son, and I have to talk to him about that. I'm exhausted. I think I just, we're oh my god.
Yeah,
So we had to talk to me. I have to talk to him and say, explain to him what that means for him. And it's so confusing for a kid who's born here who doesn't see that to make them see that, because that in itself is traumatizing. It really is because
absolutely.
you're talking about something that's very heavy that 11-year-old and a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old should not even heard. I don't want them to know about this, but I also want them to know about this. So that was that conversation. And now the new conversation is the fact that they're Muslim now. So now is their faith. And mind you,
Wow.
I have 11 or 12 nephews, and I have, there is so many of them, and we're having conversation with our kids about Islam and what's going on. And because my son saw me on TV, and they're all getting excited, but then I have to
Yeah.
explain to them what that mean. They're like, what? But why? Kids is always the why.
They
I don't
don't,
have the answer
but
for
you're
you.
kids, you're kids. Like,
I don't have the answer for them. I just decided, I myself, I find it that is a bit traumatizing for them. So I just give them sort of the preliminary information. Mom, some people don't like, they don't like what they don't like what they don't know. And sometimes when people see mom, grandma, or aunties wearing these hijabs, they don't like that. And I
yeah.
tell them, and I said, it's not everybody who believes that, because I don't want to create some hate in them. I don't want to pass my trauma on to them, because this is a trauma we're going through. And I think at some point we're going to have a PTSD from this. And we already have PTSD from pandemic, and there's another PTSD. There's a
My God.
PTSD from being black. So there's always something, right? But for me, I chose to not to dive deep into it, because I don't know how they're going to take that. And I think I just have to explain. People don't like it. And I think I didn't talk too much into racism, or I didn't want to talk, because they already have the racism talk from being black. It's so
Hmm.
confusing. The
Yeah,
whole
the
the
being
whole George
black
Floyd,
part.
yeah, the whole George Floyd trial was on TV every single day. They see those things. They hear that in school. So for me, I didn't want to add more to
Yeah.
it. And because there's a lot of things that happened within my family for the last couple of years, there's just too many things on top of one another, too many changes. So I just chose to say that some people don't like when Muslim women wear hijab. He's like, well,
Hmm.
so they get attacked, but why? That's not right. I'm like, I know it's
Mm.
not right, and this is why mom is talking about that. Okay, mommy, that's a good job, and we leave at that. Um, so I think each parent can decide how they want to start that conversation with their kids. Um,
Okay.
I think the other things too, our kids are already getting vicarious trauma anyways. Me rolling up my window when I'm stop at traffic stop, that itself my son can see that. They all see that, and but I think you just need to be kind to yourself when you're explaining that without having an anger, because the more anger you have, you can transfer that on your kids. And how ironic that we're saying
Yes.
don't be angry. What do you mean,
It's not
right?
even.
But I think that's what I
Yeah.
chose, because I just think I don't have the capacity to handle that just now yet, because it's still happening. It hasn't ended yet. When there's a resolution, you can be like, well, this would happen. It's some sort
Yeah.
of happy
And this
ending. You
is,
can tie
yeah,
that with
this
a bow, or you can be like, this
exactly.
is right. So it's like, oh, it was bad, but now it's done. So we can move on, right? But there isn't a resolution just yet, because it's still happening. And it's hard. I bleed when I can. My heart bleeds. I can't. I rather not, man. I'd rather not have
No,
that
I
conversation.
agree. No, I
Um,
think everybody knows the capacity of your environment, of your children, of your family. So like when you're sharing this, when you're talking about racism, Islamophobia, whatever that you may want to talk to your kids about, if you're, especially if you're black, you will need to talk to them about racism for sure. And
yes,
then if you're a black Muslim, then you have to talk to them
that's another
about the same
layer,
thing
right?
twice. You add
Yeah,
another layer to the racism,
yeah,
you add
yeah.
Islamophobia to it. It's just a matter of, like you said, you can just tell them some information that you feel like they can handle, that they need to know, but you don't really need to speak to them with all that, I want to say, all that intricate detail, like all that
Yes.
full on detail. They probably don't need to hear that. And we want to be careful not to transfer
You want to
anger.
preserve, yeah, you want to preserve the childhood, right? You want them
Yeah.
to still be
I don't know
those
how much
innocent
of their
kids,
childhood we can preserve here with all the stuff we've seen.
right?
And
With
yeah.
all this happening, I agree.
Yeah.
And I pity, I really, I pity that. And I think I think if that bothers you, non-Muslim people or non-black folks, if that part bother you, please do something. And I know you
Please do
can.
something.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Thank you. Tia, thank you so much for everything that you've shared with us today. It's just been amazing talking to you. I'm super grateful. I want to end by asking you to share one key takeaway, one key advice to our listeners today. If there's only one thing that they can take away from this conversation we've just had, what do you think that should be?
The same the same right that applies to you should apply to me. There shouldn't be no exception. It shouldn't be because of this. It should not be because of the no exception. Just erase that out. It shouldn't. My race shouldn't matter. My color shouldn't matter. Uh my
How
faith
you
should not
dress, how
matter.
you look, your
None of
name.
that should matter.
Yeah.
If you feel when you go at the end of the night, when you go to bed, if deep down in you you believe the same right that applies to you should apply to me, then please do something. Please speak up, because that's really what that is. I think we have to humanize this somehow. We have to we have to there should not be a price on my safety. There should not be well, just take, I hear something, just take the hijab off. I shouldn't have to do that, period, right? So if you feel like, oh yeah, Tia have this, you should really have, just for simply being human. I don't care. Don't add anything to it. No added adjective. Don't add another thing. No, no, no. Just the fact that we're both human. If you feel the same, I know I'm keep repeating that, but
It
if
is
you
important.
feel the same right that applies to you, that you should just go to the grocery, you should just go for a walk. If those should apply to me, then please make that happen, because
Yes.
I know I am putting too much responsibility on you, but I will promise you, if that was you, if that was happening to you, I'll be right next to you. I wouldn't even question it. I wouldn't say, well, because don't, no, nothing will matter to me. I'll stand right next to you. I don't have to agree with you. We don't have to see eye to eye, but I will promise you that each of us should be safe, period.
Yes.
That's it. And I'll stand right next to you. I'll hold your hand. We'll go march that. I don't care what religion you believe in. I do not care what race you are. I'll be right next to you. And I'm expecting the same thing from you.
Thank you,
Right?
Tia.
That's, yeah. Thank
Thank
you
you
for
so
having me,
much.
EJ. You're amazing. And I think we need more podcasts like this. And I'm so grateful. I'm so humbled that I know you. And
Thank
that you
you.
give me this platform. I know I don't have the big fancy word to say, and I know
What?
I
We
you
don't
know
need
I could
fancy. We don't do fancy words in this podcast. As a matter of fact, I do tell some of my guests,
yeah,
if you're one of those intellectuals, I tell them to tone it down a bit, because this podcast is for everybody. It's not
everybody.
about, anything. It's just about, let's have a regular conversation. Let's have
And
a
I
kitchen
appreciate you
table
for that.
conversation.
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah. I
thank you so much for
appreciate you.
being here.
You're doing amazing work, and I think this is something might come up from your podcast. You
Wow.
might be just a hobby now, but you never know. You
It is
never
a
know who's
hobby right
listening,
now. It's a
because
passion, but yeah,
yeah, this conversation are very vital and very important conversation to have,
you're very
and
important. Yes.
you're very important, and I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you. So thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. And shout out to Alimat, who connected the two of us, because that wouldn't, if it wasn't for her, I probably would have met you. So
She's an amazing
thank you.
human being.
She
I
is.
knew her. I know her for about 10 years now.
Oh, wow.
She came a long way. Yeah, we met in school a long time ago. Yeah, I always admired her. I'm like, I don't know how she has that kind of body with that baby. I'm like, I don't know how
I
that
don't
works.
know, girl. I don't know how she has
And you
it.
look good yourself too, EJ. What are you talking about?
What? I'm
You
good.
look amazing. You look amazing.
Are you sure it's
We're
not the
so
camera? It might be the
no,
camera or the lights.
no.
I don't know.
I think we're so harsh on ourselves. And that's kind of human nature. But you look amazing. So thank you for having me. I
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
you.
Yeah.